Some mornings the larder held almost nothing. A heel of stale bread, a scrape of fat gone cloudy in the jar, perhaps a spoonful of sugar rattling in the bottom of the tin. And yet your Nan never once let you leave for school on an empty stomach. We are counting down 30 breakfasts British Nans conjured out of thin air. When the cupboard was bare, the wage packet was days away, and the shops stayed shut tight on a Sunday. These were meals built from crumbs and cunning, from thrift hammered into place by rationing and long, cold winters. Expect ingredients you would never dream of serving now, and a resourcefulness that fed a nation. Which forgotten breakfast tops the list? Let's begin with number 30. Number 30. The sugar sandwich was the breakfast of last resort, and children adored it precisely because they weren't supposed to. When there was no jam, no marmalade, and certainly no egg, your Nan spread margarine thin across 2 slices of bread and scattered a spoonful of white sugar between them, pressing the halves together so the granules would stick. The bite was strange and wonderful, the crunch of undissolved sugar against soft bread, a rare sweetness in a week of plain fare. In the 1950s, a bag of sugar was still a considered purchase, rationing on it not fully lifted until 1953, so this was indulgence measured by the teaspoon. Mothers made it without ceremony, but children remembered it for a lifetime, the taste of being given something sweet when there was nothing at all. Number 29. Condensed milk on toast turned a sticky tin into a small miracle on cold mornings. Your Nan kept a tin of Nestle's or Fussell's tucked at the back of the shelf, its thick syrup lasting weeks after opening, no fridge required. She would toast a slice under the grill, then drizzle that pale gold sweetness across it in slow ribbons, letting it soak into the warm bread. A tin cost around 7p and could stretch across a fortnight of breakfasts. Children licked it from the spoon when they thought no one was looking, and mothers pretended not to notice. It was too sweet by modern standards, cloying almost, yet in a house without butter or fresh milk, it felt like luxury poured straight from the larder. Number 28. Bread and milk, known in many homes as pobs or sops, was the breakfast given to the very young and the very old, and to anyone on a morning when the bread had gone hard. Your Nan tore stale crusts into a bowl, poured over warm milk, and sprinkled a little sugar on top, leaving it to sit until the bread swelled soft and yielding. It cost next to nothing, and used up what would otherwise be thrown to the birds. The National Food Survey of the early 1950s recorded bread as the single largest item in the working family's diet, 4 loaves a person each week, and dishes like this were how not a scrap of it was wasted. Warm, plain, and comforting, it filled small stomachs before a long walk to school. Number 27. Cornflakes with the top of the milk marked a small step up in the world, a breakfast that felt modern even when the cupboard was bare. Before homogenized milk, the cream rose to the top of the bottle overnight, and your Nan would pour that first rich inch over a bowl of flakes as a treat, saving the thinner milk below for tea. When the packet ran low, she stretched it with a handful of broken crusts or a spoon of sugar to bulk it out. A box of Kellogg's cost around 9p and was rationed carefully across the week. Children raced downstairs for the top of the milk, and whoever reached the bottle first felt like they'd won something. It was thrift dressed up as breakfast cereal. Number 26. Bread and jam needed only a heel of bread and the last scrapings of a jar, and in most homes that jar was homemade. Your Nan boiled up whatever fruit the garden or the hedgerow gave her, blackberry, plum, gooseberry, with sugar bought cheap in season, sealing the pots with waxed discs to last the year. On a bare morning she spread a thin, generous-looking layer across bread, the red seeping into the crumb. A jar cost pennies to make and lasted for weeks. Ministry of Food leaflets urged families to preserve everything they could, and a well-stocked jam shelf was a quiet mark of a capable household. For children, red jam on white bread was the ordinary joy that made a hard week bearable. Number 25. Semolina, more often thought of as a school pudding, doubled as a warming breakfast when there was little else to hand. Your Nan simmered the fine grains in milk stretched with water, stirring patiently until the mixture thickened into a smooth, pale porridge. A spoon of sugar or a blob of jam turned it from plain to comforting. A bag of semolina cost only a few pence and swelled to feed a whole family, making it a favorite of thrifty kitchens. Children divided sharply over it, some loving the silky texture, others eyeing the skin that formed on top with suspicion. Yet on a frozen morning with the coal running low, a hot bowl of semolina was warmth you could hold in your hands. Number 24. Treacle on bread carried the taste of the pantry's darkest, stickiest corner. When the golden syrup ran out, your Nan reached for black treacle, spreading it thick across a slice and letting it pool in the dips of the crumb. The flavor was deep and bittersweet, nothing like sugar, and it clung to fingers and lips for the rest of the morning. A tin of Lyle's or Fowler's cost around 9p and lasted for months, tucked at the back of the shelf. Treacle was believed to be good for the blood, and many a grandmother pressed a spoonful on a pale-looking child. It was cheap, it was filling, and it turned a plain slice of bread into something that stuck to your ribs until dinner. Number 23. Marmite or Bovril on toast gave a savory start to the day when nothing sweet remained. Your Nan scraped a whisper of the dark, salty paste across hot buttered toast, or when there was no butter, dissolved a spoon of Bovril in hot water and poured it over the bread to soften it. The taste was fierce and grown up, and children either loved it or fled the table. A jar of Marmite, sold since 1902 as a byproduct of the brewing trade, cost little and lasted an age, a smear being all that was needed. It was prized as much for its supposed goodness as its flavor, full of the vitamins a hard-up household could rarely afford. Strong, salty, and warming, it was breakfast with a backbone. Number 22. Milk sop with sugar was the gentlest breakfast of all, reserved for the youngest child or the mornings when illness kept someone home from school. Your Nan warmed a cup of milk, poured it over torn bread in a bowl, and stirred in enough sugar to coax a smile. There was nothing to it, and that was the point. A dish that asked for no eggs, no fat, no fuss, only patience and a kind hand. It cost mere pennies and used the bread too stale for anything else. Mothers made it without a recipe, guided by the same instinct that had guided their own mothers. Soft, warm, and sweet, milk sop was less a meal than a comfort, the taste of being cared for when the world outside was cold. Number 21. Scraped marg on toast was the humblest breakfast to earn a place at the table, and in lean weeks, it was all there was. Your Nan spread margarine so thin you could see the toast beneath it, a habit born of ration books and tight budgets, when a half-pound block had to last the family a week. Held up to the light, that scraping seemed almost transparent. Margarine had replaced butter in most working homes by the 1950s, cheaper and more plentiful, and children grew up on its faintly artificial taste without ever knowing the difference. Toasted bread with the barest smear of fat and a shake of salt was breakfast on a Thursday, when payday was Friday and the purse held only coppers. Plain it was, but it filled the gap. Number 20. Fried leftover mash shaped into flat potato cakes turned Sunday's dinner into Monday's breakfast without a single new ingredient. Your Nan pressed cold mashed potato into rounds, sometimes binding them with a scatter of flour, then fried them in a hot pan until the edges crisped golden and the middle stayed soft. The smell of frying potato filled the kitchen and drew children from their beds. It cost nothing, being built entirely from what would otherwise sit forgotten in the larder. In the north, they were sometimes served with a shake of salt and a dab of brown sauce, a proper start to a working day. That refusal to waste a spoonful of anything, that quiet ingenuity, was the very engine of the post-war kitchen, and it began at breakfast. Number 19. Bubble and squeak, so often eaten at supper, was just as welcome first thing when the pan held Sunday's leftover greens and potato. Your Nan tipped cold cabbage and mash into hot dripping, pressing it flat and letting it catch and crisp before turning it in ragged, browned pieces. The name came from the sound, the vegetables hissing and spitting as they hit the fat. It cost nothing beyond the fuel to fry it, and it cleared the larder of everything left from the roast. Children who wrinkled their noses at cabbage the night before somehow devoured it, frightened crisp in the morning. Ministry of Food campaigns held it up as thrift itself. But for most families, it was simply how a Monday began, a second life for tired vegetables. Number 18. Fried tomatoes on toast brought a splash of color and comfort, when the garden or the allotment had a glut. Your Nan halved whatever tomatoes were going soft, fried them in a little fat until they collapsed into a rich, sweet, sharp pulp, then piled them steaming onto toast. It was a breakfast that cost almost nothing in late summer, when tomatoes ripened faster than a family could eat them, and every windowsill held a row slowly reddening. The juice soaked into the bread, turning it soft and savory. In a house without bacon or egg, a plate of fried tomatoes felt generous and warm. It was proof that a bare cupboard and a productive garden could still, between them, put something hot and hearty on the breakfast table. Number 17. Scrambled egg stretched with breadcrumbs was the trick that turned one precious egg into breakfast for 2 or 3. Your Nan beat a single egg with a splash of milk, then folded in soft breadcrumbs to bulk out the mixture before cooking it slow and gentle in the pan. The result was fluffy and filling, and no child ever guessed the egg had been made to go further than it should. In the early 1950s, eggs were still rationed on and off, a fresh one a small event in the week, so a wise grandmother made it count. Ministry of Food pamphlets openly taught these stretching tricks, mixing egg with crumbs, with potato, with anything to hand. Soft, warm, and satisfying, it was scarcity disguised so well, it tasted like plenty. Number 16. Baked beans on toast, now a national institution, once counted as a resourceful breakfast when a tin was all the cupboard offered. Your Nan tipped a tin of Heinz into a small pan, warmed it through, and spooned it over toast, sometimes stretching a single tin between 2 children by piling on extra bread. A tin cost around 7 pence and needed no skill beyond opening it, making it a lifeline on the mornings when time and money both ran short. The beans had arrived from America decades earlier and become thoroughly British, cheap, filling, and reliably popular. Children ate them without complaint, mopping the orange sauce with crust. It was the breakfast that asked nothing of a tired cook but delivered a hot, hearty plate every single time. Number 15. Kippers gave a smoky, savory breakfast when the fishmonger's cart came round with the cheap, oily catch. Your Nan poached the golden brown fillets gently in a little water or grilled them under a low flame, the strong smell of smoked herring seeping through the whole house and clinging to the curtains for hours. A pair of kippers cost only a few pence, herring being one of the most abundant and affordable fish of the age. Bony and rich, they were an acquired taste, but a filling one, packed with the goodness a hard-up family badly needed. Eaten with bread to soak the juices, a kipper breakfast set a working man up for a long shift. Its smell alone was enough to wake a whole terrace before the alarm clocks rang. Number 14. Kedgeree carried a whisper of grander tables into the ordinary kitchen, built from the flaked remains of yesterday's fish. Your Nan mixed leftover cooked fish with boiled rice, a chopped hard egg if one could be spared, and a shake of pepper, warming it all in a pan until it steamed. The dish had come home from British India generations before and settled comfortably into the Thrifty breakfast, a clever way to turn a few scraps of smoked haddock into a meal for the whole family. It cost little more than the rice, the fish already paid for the day before. Fragrant and filling, it felt almost exotic against the grey of a winter morning. For all its colonial airs, Kedgeree at heart was simply another way of wasting nothing. Number 13. Oat cakes and drop scones came off the griddle in minutes, needing only flour or oatmeal, a little liquid, and a hot iron pan. Your Nan mixed a rough batter, dropped spoonfuls onto the greased griddle, and flipped them as the bubbles rose, stacking the warm rounds under a cloth to keep soft. In Scotland and the north of England, these were breakfast staples, cheap and quick, ready before the kettle had boiled. A bag of oatmeal or flour cost pennies and made dozens. Spread with the thinnest scrape of margarine or a smear of syrup, they filled a plate and a stomach with almost nothing. The smell of them cooking, warm and faintly nutty, meant the day had begun, and no shop had needed to be visited to make it so. Number 12. Fried potatoes and onions made a hot, savory breakfast from the humblest bottom-of-the-sack vegetables. Your Nan sliced cold boiled potatoes, or raw ones if that was all there was, and fried them slowly with onion in dripping until both turned soft and golden at the edges. The smell of frying onion drifting up the stairs was an alarm clock all its own. A few potatoes and an onion cost next to nothing, and in a house with a well-dug garden, they cost nothing at all. It was the breakfast of miners and mill workers, cheap fuel for a body about to spend the day in hard labor. Simple, greasy, and deeply satisfying, it proved once again that a bare larder and a hot pan could always somehow conjure a meal. Number 11. Bacon. Fat on bread was breakfast for the mornings when the bacon itself was long gone, but its memory lingered in the jar. Your Nan saved every drop of fat rendered from the week's rashers, keeping it cloudy and pale in a pot by the stove, and on a bare day she spread it thick across bread with a shake of salt. It carried the smoky, salty ghost of bacon without a scrap of meat in sight. And to a hungry child, it was every bit as good. Nothing that came off a joint or a rasher was ever thrown away, the fat too precious, too full of flavor. It was thrift at its most bare-boned, a breakfast made from the shadow of a meal, and it fed families all the same. Number 10. Bread pudding, eaten cold and dense for breakfast, was the clever afterlife of every stale crust in the house. Your Nan soaked old bread in water or milk, squeezed it dry, then mixed in dried fruit, a little sugar, and a scrape of spice before baking it into a heavy, moist slab. Cut into thick squares, it kept for days in the tin and was as good cold at breakfast as it was warm the night before. A whole batch cost only pennies, built almost entirely from what would otherwise have been wasted. Sticky, filling, and faintly spiced. A slice of it in the hand set a child up for the walk to school. It was the pudding that refused to let a single crumb of bread go to the bin. Number 9. Fried leftover suet pudding turned the tail end of yesterday's dinner into a surprising breakfast treat. Your nan cut cold slices of suet pudding, plain or dotted with currants, and fried them in a hot pan until the edges crisped and caramelized, the inside turning soft and warm again. A shake of sugar finished it. It cost nothing at all, being made entirely from the pudding that might otherwise have grown hard in the larder. Suet, that cheap, dense fat, was the calorie workhorse of the post-war kitchen, and no scrap of a pudding built around it was ever wasted. Fried crisp and dusted with sugar, it tasted almost like a fresh-made treat, and children never once complained that they were eating last night's afters for their morning meal. Number 8. Cheese on toast, the thrifty cousin of Welsh rarebit, made a hot and savory breakfast from the smallest heel of hard cheese. Your nan grated whatever dry, forgotten corner of cheese remained, sometimes moistening it with a splash of milk or a dab of mustard, and grilled it bubbling and golden on a slice of bread. Even the driest end, too hard to eat plain, melted back to life under the flame. Cheese was rationed well into the mid-1950s, an ounce or two a person some weeks, so nothing was ever thrown out. Bubbling, brown and rich, it filled the kitchen with a smell that pulled sleepers from their beds. It was proof that even a scrap too small to bother with could become a proper hot breakfast in capable hands. Number 7. Grilled tomatoes and mushrooms brought a taste of the countryside to the breakfast plate, when the fields and hedgerows were generous. Your nan sent the children out to gather field mushrooms at dawn in late summer, dark-gilled and free for the taking, then grilled them with a halved tomato and a knob of fat until both ran with savory juice. It was a breakfast that cost nothing beyond the fuel, foraged from land that asked no payment. Piled onto toast or eaten straight from the pan, it felt like a feast conjured out of thin air. In a Britain where a proper cooked breakfast was a rare luxury, a plate of grilled tomatoes and wild mushrooms was a small triumph, the reward for knowing exactly where and when to look. Number 6. A single boiled egg with soldiers, shared between children, was breakfast turned into a small ceremony of fairness. Your nan boiled one precious egg, set it in its cup, and cut fingers of buttered toast for dipping, dividing the golden yolk carefully between 2 or 3 waiting spoons. With eggs rationed on and off through the early 1950s, a fresh one was an event, and no drop of it was ever left in the shell. Children learned patience waiting their turn to dip, and the one who got the last scrape of yolk felt lucky all morning. It cost only the egg and a slice of bread, yet it carried a sense of occasion far above its price. The shared egg was thrift and love served together in an egg cup. Number 5. Porridge made with water and a pinch of salt was the bare-bones breakfast that kept generations of children upright through school. Your nan soaked oats overnight, then cooked them slow on the hob, stirring so they wouldn't catch, using water when milk was too dear to spare, and finishing with only salt for flavor. A bag of oats cost pennies and swelled to feed a family for a week, making it the cheapest hot meal a kitchen could offer. In Scotland, it was eaten standing up, plain and savory, a fierce point of pride. Grey, thick, and filling, it stuck to the ribs against the cold and stretched the household budget further than almost anything else. It was less a treat than a foundation, the honest fuel of a hard-working, hard-up nation. Number 4. Fried bread. Crisped in whatever fat the pan still held, was the breakfast that made a virtue of a single stale slice. Your nan laid the bread into hot dripping and pressed it down, letting it drink up the fat and turn deep golden and crunching crisp on both sides. It cost only the bread and a spoonful of saved fat, and it transformed the dullest heel of a loaf into something rich and satisfying. Cut into fingers, it was handed to children on their way out the door, greasy and warm in a bit of newspaper. Doctors would shudder at it now, but a slice of proper fried bread carried a working body through a long, cold morning. It was thrift you could hear, crackling in the pan before dawn. Number 3. Bread dunked in hot sweet tea was the last breakfast the bare cupboard could offer, and countless children were raised on it. Your Nan tore a slice into a large cup of tea, strong and well sugared, and let it soak until soft before spooning it out, warm and comforting, into a hungry mouth. It cost only the tea, the sugar, and the stale bread that made it, and it appeared on the very leanest mornings when there was truly nothing else. Tea was one of the few pleasures never fully rationed away, a constant in the poorest home. Soft, sweet, and warming, dunked bread asked nothing and gave a little heat and comfort to start the day. It was breakfast stripped back to its barest, kindest essentials. Number 2. Bacon and egg, when it finally came, was the treat that announced a good week or a Sunday morning. Your Nan fried a rasher or two in the pan, cracked an egg into the sizzling fat, and spooned it over the yolk until it set, the smell of frying bacon rolling through the house like a celebration. This was not the breakfast of a bare cupboard, but of the mornings when the purse allowed, and children knew the difference the moment they smelled it. A few rashers cost a shilling or so, a real outlay for a careful household, which made it all the more prized. Eaten with fried bread to catch the juices, it was the breakfast dreamed of on all the plain days, the reward for a week of making do. And finally, in first place, bread and dripping stood as the truest breakfast of the bare cupboard, the taste of British thrift itself. Your Nan saved every drop of fat from the Sunday roast, straining it into a jar and letting it set pale and firm with a dark, savory jelly settling at the bottom. On a morning with nothing else in the house, she spread that dripping thick across bread, digging down for the rich brown jelly beneath, and finished it with a good shake of salt. It cost nothing at all, being built entirely from what a joint of meat left behind. That smear of fat carried the deep, meaty flavor of a roast long since eaten, so a child could taste last Sunday's dinner on a plain Wednesday. In mining towns and city terraces alike, this was breakfast when the wage packet was days away and the larder held only crumbs. Children learned early that nothing, not a single drop of fat, was ever wasted. Warm bread, cold dripping, a pinch of salt. It was survival, plain and unadorned, and for a generation raised on it, no breakfast since has ever quite matched the memory. There they are, the 30 breakfasts your Nan made from almost nothing at all, a countdown of pure thrift, ingenuity, and love. Which one did your family swear by? Drop it in the comments, because I want to know whose Nan still keeps a dripping jar by the stove. Your Nan knew how to feed a house on crumbs. Now you know too.